Morning Show on AM 1100, The Flag.
We've been updating you this morning on flight status out of Hector Airport. From this point on, all the flights that are set to go are scheduled on time, including the 1:35 United flight to Denver. There were two United flights to Denver, one at 5:50 and one at 7:27 that were canceled this morning because of the blizzard, the snowstorm that's moving through the Rocky Mountains. But it looks like they seem fairly confident that they'll be able to get the United flight to Denver at 1:35 off. So other than that, everything is on time. Anything going forward from this point on should go as scheduled. It's 8:06, and it is time for the Vaaler Insurance CEO Spotlight. It is our weekly opportunity to visit with one of the business leaders from the community that's building an organization, taking care of employees, and creating a great experience in the community. And we're very thankful to have in studio this morning Brad Schlossman. He is the CEO at West Acres Development. Brad, good morning. Thank you for coming by today.
Well, good morning, and thank you for the invitation. It's great to be here.
Anything going on in your world this time of year? Or are you just sitting back having popcorn and waiting for the time to pass, I bet, huh?
Oh, I tell you what, it's very busy. I'll just put it that way. Coming off a weekend like this last one where we held Frozen Fest for the little kids, and they showed up in big numbers. And then It's a Wonderful Night is always a great event for us. And Sunday night, it exceeded all of our expectations. I think it was our best ever.
Fantastic. Yeah, so I love the idea about the Frozen Fest for the kids, too. And if we've learned anything about retail in the last 10, 15 years or so, you've got to create an experience, because now there's a lot of ways that people can buy something, but you want to make it fun to go to the mall, and you're certainly doing that.
I couldn't have said it better.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
It's a very intentional effort on our part to do that, and we're running events we wouldn't have thought of 10 years ago. We've got an attitude of launch and learn. Let's try this and see how it goes.
Yeah, right.
And it's really paid off.
Tell me about the Frozen Fest for the kids and the planning behind that and how that came to be and what you really think you were able to accomplish with that.
Well, the good news is that one of the keys to a successful event like that is to have good teams. So when it comes to the details of how this is pulled off, I don't have them. But what we do have is a great team that can pull these events off.
Yeah.
But we've had characters in costume in the mall before, and Elsa as well was one of those characters. But this time we had the whole character cast, lead characters from Frozen, and on the day that Frozen 2 was launching. So it was, all the stars were aligning for a very successful event.
It's great. It's a great idea. It's great planning. And then It's a Wonderful Night has been something that you've done for several years. And the fact that you had maybe your best one, that speaks to the fact that people still are enjoying West Acres as a destination place.
Yeah, we're really pleased with how that's turning out. The events that we're holding, we have Tap Fest running all fall long, and now we're going to do a holiday Tap Fest as well. We have enough things going on now that I started to make a list, and I thought, no, that would waste a lot of time. But if you go to westacres.com or westacres.com/blog, you can find all of the events going on, and you go, oh, yeah, there is a lot going on.
How's the Sunday shopping been going for you guys? I know that started up this fall. Is that a pretty good deal?
Well, that also has exceeded our expectations in terms of the amount of traffic that it generates. That 11 to 12 on Sunday has become one of our power hours.
Wow.
Unexpectedly. We knew that it would help build the 12 to 1 hour, but the 11 to 12 hour itself has also become a power hour. And then the last two Sundays before Christmas will go at 10 o'clock, but nothing terribly early.
Have most of the stores decided that they do want to come in that hour early then and open at 11?
Yes, there was one that was a holdout, and the fact that customers are showing up is going to dictate their decision.
Yeah, it might help them make a decision going forward, to come in a little bit earlier there. What types of stores in the mall are doing the best? Is there a certain category where it really seems like this particular kind of a store is a niche in this community that people are really turning out for?
Well, Lululemon is a perfect example of a type of store that came in and was successful from the start. 2 years ago, they opened as a temp, and within weeks of their opening, they said, nope, we want permanent store, and we want it to be right where our temp store was, even though that's where they said we will only do a temp store here. We don't like to be close to the food court. And after just a couple of weeks there, they said, nope, this is our home.
Okay.
Get us a lease.
So they were just kind of kicking the tires on the idea.
Which is their normal business model.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
They just want to see how it goes.
Yep.
Before they do a long-term commitment. And now they're hooked. You've got them hooked on the West Acres crack over there, I guess you could say, huh?
Well, no, it's the customers that have them hooked.
There
so
you go.
we need to express our gratitude for customers for showing up.
Yeah. What has Best Buy moving over meant to you?
Oh, it's been a huge benefit. They've had tremendous success. In fact, last week they had one of their top leaders in the corporation on site and had nothing but praise for that Best Buy team. And said the results speak for themselves. It's a tremendous store. So we're delighted with how that's turned out.
Has the makeup of the composition of your audience, if you will, changed that you've been able to put your finger on? Do more people come here, say, from Canada or Western North Dakota or the St. Cloud area or Wahpeton than maybe before? What are some of the trends as far as where people are coming from, where it's creating more or maybe less people than it used to?
I don't know that there's been huge shifts in our demographics. If you go back, say, 7 to 10 years, we had a lot more Canadians when their dollar was at par. But now the Canadian traffic has stabilized. We get tour buses fairly regularly from Canada. And we're hoping that we can work with the Arts Partnership actually to start developing art tours to Fargo, with Aptitude just opening this last Sunday night at It's a Wonderful Night. We've added another art component in addition to the regional showcase program we've had for years.
Yeah. Before I leave the topic of the events that you had over the weekend with It's a Wonderful Night, is there one thing you can put your finger on as to why maybe this was the best one you've had of all time? Is it the Frozen Fest that kind of feeds into that, or what do you think is to credit for that?
Well, I think these things build over years. And when people have a good experience, they come back. What we had going for us this Sunday night, in addition to some of those trends, is good weather.
Yeah.
We have to admit we're dependent upon weather in order to have results.
Yes.
But then we are getting better at events, so I think that the people that came, the experience keeps getting better. In just my own experience of being there, listening to the music that's being performed, and how we set things up, the different events within the event that take place. Every year seems to be better than the one before it.
Yeah, that's great.
As part of that lunch and learn.
Yeah, there you go. And I heard somebody say everything is a mess in the middle. You start out a new idea, and it always takes a while to get it figured out. But if you've got a good idea and you stick with it, a lot of times you can see the success. And it sounds like that's what's happened with you.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Tell me a little bit about the future of malls in our country. I'm sure you spend a lot of time just looking at national trends and conversations. Are we insulated here in the Fargo-Moorhead, West Fargo area a little bit because of maybe who we are and the kind of lifestyle that we have? I've heard that nationwide shopping malls have kind of been going through some rough times as they try to figure out how to compete with the Amazons and the eBays and everybodyonline.com. But how is this area of the country compared to maybe some of your counterparts managing malls in Philadelphia and Houston and Dallas? How are they doing?
Well, you know what? I wouldn't use the term insulated. That's almost sounds like we'd be jinxing ourselves. We can't have that kind of arrogance about what we're doing. One of the drivers there, obviously, the internet, and going into this phase, United States has way too many stores. And so we needed to go through a pruning of stores. And so retail everywhere has felt the crunch. New York City, Fifth Avenue, stores are closing, rents are dropping. So it doesn't matter if it's a mall or otherwise. Meanwhile, there are too many malls, and there are a lot of, I'll call them boring malls, that don't generate the kind of experience that customers want. And so we didn't want to fall into that trap. When 2017 came along and there was a number of store closings that, like Sears, that we saw that on the horizon, for 10 years coming, that when their lease came up, that we could do better. And of course we did. Best Buy and the restaurant district are proof of that. But our reaction to the stores closing, being a locally owned and operated mall, we didn't have to look at Wall Street and say, hey, we need to cut expenses. We've reinvested, and that reinvestment is really paying off.
Yeah. How much does it hurt you that the Herberger's, the old Herberger's, is still open? That's an outward-facing spot. It's pretty visible there, and that one's been dark for a while. How much does that hurt you?
To be honest, since Herberger's closed, our sales are up. Macy's sales are stronger after Herberger's closed. They overlapped a lot. Having said that, we'd much rather have that occupied. We don't own that building. The owner of that building bought 6 Bon-Ton stores, Herberger's, et cetera, from Bon-Ton Corporation, leased them back, and of course, when it went belly up, it left this company without a tenant, and now it went belly up, and now it's a loan servicing agent for the banks, basically, that owning it, and we think it's in better hands now than it was in the first go-around. So
you don't, is that the only part of the mall area that you'd say that you don't own, or is that
Macy's?
Macy's.
Yep, Macy's owns it themselves.
Okay. All right, so that would be the only other one.
Right.
Okay. But other than that, you kind of control that and who goes in there and so forth. Okay. Any prospects for that Herberger's area that you are aware of?
We know that there's been interest, but we aren't involved in the discussions, and nobody has contacted us with.
I suppose you'll be the last to know, I imagine, when that.
Probably not the last to know, but in the middle of the process, they'll want to get some questions answered and et cetera. So.
For the business of the other places in the mall that you do own, have you been able to keep rents about where they're at? Have you been able to raise rents? How has that part of it gone for you?
Overall, it's been fairly stable. There are certain circumstances where stores are suffering that we have to make adjustments, but overall, it's been pretty stable.
Yeah,
and we've had successes with new tenants like. Oh, Crave is an obvious example.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that. Yeah.
They're off to a great start.
Are they?
Yes,
Good.
they are.
Okay.
Yes. So I don't want to confess how many times I've already eaten there.
Yeah, well, that's good food over there. I've not been there yet. We need to get over.
It was you?
It was
the only
me.
one who hasn't.
Yeah. No, I've got to get on over there and see how that's going. So tell us, for those that aren't familiar with that concept, tell us about Crave and what they're doing over there.
It has a very large menu. So people who have particular tastes are going to be able to find something that they like in that menu. They're really good with food allergies. They're good with kids. They have a great bar. They cover a lot of bases well. And it's one of the keys to their success. And that's not an easy thing for a restaurant to do. It's far easier to be able to focus than to cover all those bases.
Yeah. How many, so the mall, obviously, we look at the mall and we say, wow, look at all the traffic, all the people, all the stores. But your organization is maybe not as big as far as employees of West Acres that maybe most would think. How many employees do you have that work over there now?
Roughly 60-ish. And that number has been growing.
Yeah, I bet it has.
When I talk about us reinvesting, we're also reinvesting in people and building teams in just about every area where we've been elevating and stepping up our game with attracting the right people.
I imagine that your game has to change in terms of recruiting people, because now instead of just finding people that know how to run a store, you need people that are good with events and experiences and all those things. So I'm guessing your hiring has changed recently.
You guessed it. That's exactly right. We our marketing team, 5 years ago was 1. Now it's 3 plus an intern. But that's what I'm talking about, the importance of investing in what we're doing.
How do you find the right kinds of people? I would guess you want creative, visionary people that want to build something great for the days ahead. So how do you find those kinds of people?
It's not necessarily easy, but it just takes a little bit of work. Keep your eyes open. And in about 7, 8, 10 years ago, we sat down and made an intentional effort to focus on culture. we always had what we thought was a very good culture, and I think we did, but we completely, turned a lot of our HR practices upside down, including things like family leave, maternity leave, and for fathers as well. Went from not being very good at it to being well ahead of the curve there. That's an example of HR benefits. But then we also established values and made it clear that these are what we want. Things like a long-term view, that forward thinking, being responsible. I could go through the list, but then it becomes a boring proposition here. But we did establish values, and we stand up to them.
Yeah.
It's part of how we measure ourselves every year is how we compare individually to the company values.
Very good. Before we let you go, anything else that you want to talk about that I haven't asked you about yet before we let you go today?
Well, we're sure hope that we get to see you this Black Friday and you can work out your technical
Yes, I
parts.
hope so. I had a blast when we were there a couple of years ago, and last year it didn't work out for a couple of different reasons, but we'd love to be over there. There's no more fun place to be on the day after Thanksgiving than over at West Acres, and we had a blast when we were there before, so hopefully we can get all that worked out and come and see you again in a few days.
We open up at 7 o'clock, and there's always a pretty good crowd there.
Yeah.
But there's a number of stores that will be opening Thanksgiving evening at 6
Yes,
o'clock.
I'm sure
Some of
they
the
will.
department stores sooner than that. All that's online, so you can check those hours out.
Very good. Brad, thank you for coming over. It's been a treat. We could visit all morning. Thank you for your time today.
Well, it's fun for me to talk about the mall and all the fun things going on, so I really appreciate the invitation.
Well, all the
Thanks,
best
Steve.
and continued success. Brad Schlossman, CEO at West Acres Development. The CEO Spotlight is brought to you by Vaaler Insurance. Their employee benefit specialists work closely with your employees to make sure that they see the full value of the benefits that your organization provides. It doesn't cost a penny to ask some questions. To set up a visit, go online to Vaaler.com. That's VAALER.com. As we head to commercial break, time for another student athlete of the day on the Need to Know Morning Show on AM 1100 The Flag, WZFG.